and gentlemen, to another edition of the Woke Bros. I'm your gracious host, Big Wozni Lambre, the bigger Haitian, joined as always by my two partners in crime. And this time I got these two beautiful, handsome young men on camera. I'm just getting turned on, just talking to you guys right now.
I know. Well, you need it. Well,
Michael Brooks and Nando Vila, you guys.
Cabin fever.
Yes, so before we get into today's show, just want to remind everybody that over at Count the Dings Patreon, we started this new, ever since the quarantine hit, we started this new Count the Dings After Dark, which is just a show that generally starts at about 9:30 in the evening on the East Coast. And we try to, just tackle some of the daily topics, talk about different things. We like to bring guests on from the audience. It's an interactive show live on YouTube for the patrons. So if you're not a patron already, support Count the Dings and get great content. It's kind of one of the more fun new undertakings that we've taken that I'm really into. I happen to have roommates, so I live with my woman and her cousin. And so I tell everybody that my After Dark feed is sort of like the Bon Appetit test kitchen. Like, there's going to be people in the background doing what they do, working.
Oh, most definitely.
But we're
most definitely. I can tell you from TMBS, and I also love me. I'm like, tomorrow, we're live. That's fine. Why's the asshole?
And so, we try to have fun with that. So make sure you become a patron at patreon.com/countthedings. Of course, in another promotion I want to tell you guys about, that unlike the Patreon, of course, you want to come out your pocket and support us for the content that we do. But theathletic.com is actually doing a free 90-day trial for new subscribers. So if you've never been on The Athletic before and you've ever been curious about the content that we do, I should say, they're doing a new 90 days for free. Nothing up front, nothing to charge. 90 days where you just get to experience the amount of content that is put out on The Athletic on a daily basis. So go to theathletic.com and get your 90-day trial free if you aren't already a member. Because if you're already a member, you're getting your money's worth. It's the best sports content on the internet. So go to theathletic.com and do that. Okay, now that we paid the bills, guys, now we got to talk about this other bill. This monstrosity. Nice. Atrocity, just disgustingness of this bill. Nando, I want to kick it to you because I feel like you might have been more riled up than Mike about this one, man. Just tell the people generally what the sort of parameters of the bill and why it's not ideal for the working man.
So if we rewind maybe like a week or two ago when there was starting to be discussions around some sort of economic bailout coming from Congress, you started to see some people kind of send messages that maybe this time we're going to do something that was okay or decent. You saw Tom Cotton and Mitt Romney and all these people that are usually just god-awful ghouls saying, maybe we should just give economic relief to all workers and blah, blah, blah. That did not happen. Oh boy, that did not happen. They put together this agreement that both Republicans and Democrats in the Senate have agreed to, which is basically a $4.5 trillion bailout for large corporations. There is a slush fund created in which the Secretary of the Treasury, a guy named Steve Mnuchin, can just give out money willy-nilly to whatever company he wants to. And I'm sure that's going to be totally clean. There is no protection for workers after 6 months. So they can fire up to 10% of their staff within the 6 months. And then after 6 months of getting the bailout, they can fire everyone that they want. There is a $1,200 check that goes to most American adults, but you have to have a little caveat. You have to have your direct deposit registered with the IRS to get it. If not, it could take up to 4 months to get to you. There is some expansion of unemployment insurance if you lose your job. There's some other little tiny things that don't really matter. And basically that's it. People get a $1,200 check. Some people do. And the corporations that govern our society get trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
And the Democrats agreed to this.
Well, they haven't. I just want to tell everybody they haven't passed it in the House yet. And the rumor is actually like, because of the other weird thing that's going on right now is that you have some members of the Senate and Congress generally are in quarantine because they've contracted corona. So there's opportunity, and I would like to encourage AOC and Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. Basically, there's a maneuver they could do, I think, to not even allow the bill to get up for a vote in the House. I mean, this bill needs to be killed. Like,
yes.
If there is any chance, this bill needs to be killed. And here's what's really evil about it, right? Is the only little bit of disagreement I have with Nando is that, and I know, and I'm sure you agree with this too, I just would phrase it differently. It's like people who are in a serious situation, which is most people, even that little tiny pittance does make a difference because that's an extra couple of meals. That's, rent. So what you have here, and this goes back to the whole origin of this bill, right? There is zero reason why these cannot be two different pieces of legislation. Mm-hmm. There can be a bailout the people stimulus that is all about small businesses, individuals, workers, and families. And whether or not we do a really great bill, which isn't going to happen, but we just, we do single payer, we raise wages, we push through card check to empower unions, or even like what's on the table, a simple bill, get some cash transfers going, get the, hit the unemployment rate insurance going, all expand food stamps, all this other really important stuff, and then sit down and argue about the scale of corporate theft that we're about to have, which also there's all sorts. I mean, look, the CEO of Boeing said 2 days ago or yesterday, they asked him on Fox Business, they were like, well, what about the government taking equity stake in exchange for a bailout? And he's like, well, if they did that, we'd go to other sources. Okay, go to other sources.
Yeah,
exactly. Go to other sources, motherfucker. So what they could have done is then loaded it up. What I would do is I'd be like, all right, great. 2/3 of your board are workers. There's no stock buybacks. We're going to have at least a significant national stake in every strategic industry. Like, you could have done that. And then, by the way, if a company at that point, because some companies do actually need a bailout, but if the company came at that point and said, yes, we will take that, well, there you go. They actually need a bailout. All this is right now is a major, major scam that is going to further monopolize the American economy and really is starting to push us in a direction. I'll just say, like, the growth of the surveillance and the national security state and the ever greater concentration of corporations, that's a post-democratic world. And also, the shit that you're going to see in this over the next couple of months, again, we got to kill it. But like, there is money for the Mars family in this bill. Boeing is getting, I think, $17 billion for national security. Adidas, and this is like the funniest example, it's like honestly the least offensive, but like whatever, they want tax rebates for gym memberships. This is the feeding frenzy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just want to clarify, like, I obviously support like cash payments to all these people, but that's how they're holding a gun to our heads, right?
No, that's what I meant.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
I know you meant that. I just wanted to clarify that. Of course, we all understand that. And what's so fucking sick about it is it's because it is so critical for people that they are literally saying, like, yeah,
they know everybody needs it. They know that people they're betting on the American people to be like, whatever, I need my shit, that shit that's coming on the front end to me. Whatever it is y'all did for our overlords on the back end, I'm not too concerned about it. They're banking on that being the case with the American people. And then, 2 and 3 years down the road, when it actually starts taking effect on American life, people, they know, like, whatever, we already got you in a freaking vice grip. We got you by the balls. It's, it's quite disgusting. And like you said, it's just at a certain point, we got to stop assuming ignorance on the part of the Dems. like, okay, they're just incompetent and don't know what they're doing, and start understanding that they're actually collaborators. That's just the bottom line, right? We sat here and we absolutely demolished Kamala Harris for her $500. Here's $500, guys, and maybe we'll give it to you the next month, and maybe we'll do that one-time $500 payment. We killed her for that, and we couldn't even understand it. And then they end up at $1,200 afterwards. So it's like, it makes you wonder, like, what is Kamala Harris actually on? Like, what does she really want? She wants this. This is what she wants. This is what Pelosi wants. This is what Schumer wants. This is what that wing of the Democratic, Joe Biden, of course. This is what he wants. That's what that wing of the party wants, or else they would have fought harder, right? And again, it's not like they just got everything they could have got for the people they claim to care about. Where it's like, you know what? Make it $2,500. Make it $2,500, and then we get
a month for a year.
For a year, right? And we get to revisit this in a year or something. And then the Republicans settle at 6 months or whatever the case. Like, if we want to do all of this shit for them,
so much leverage. Two weeks ago, they had Donald Trump over a barrel. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Of course. But the thing is, though, Mike, if these companies had other options, and again, they're already panicking, right? Like, American Airlines is already it took like 3 days for them to have their hand out. Like 3 days. And nobody said, oh, you're supposed to tighten your belt like every other American. In times like this, Americans have to learn to tighten their belt. Or what happened to your billions in profit? You should, what they tell Americans all the time, and I've said this on countless of our shows, they always tell you, you should have 3 months rent in your savings, or else you're irresponsible. American Airlines can't sit down for 3 months? Y'all can't sit down for three? You guys made billions of profits after the last bailout. And what did you do? You over-leveraged yourself, did a bunch of stock buybacks, and now you're freaking poor again. You're crying poor again, but nobody's going to say, yo, you guys were irresponsible. They only say that shit to working people. They only ever say that to working people.
That's what I find so frustrating about the Democrats, is that if we had a real opposition party, they would understand that they have so much leverage right now that, like, if they would understand that the Republican Party is basically captured by ultra wealthy people, then that now is when you have leverage, when their stock portfolio is collapsing, and like that's all they care about, and they'll panic, they'll freak out. Like, if you can hold out for a little longer, just hold out as much as you can, then you might be able to get some real concessions from them. But they don't understand that concept. Like, in the opposite way, Republicans do that all the time. Like, they don't, they know people need $1,200 right now. They know people are struggling, and so they're gonna be like, okay, well, we'll give you that if you give me the entire house, and so they understand how to use leverage. Democrats, I'm with you. I don't think it's like ignorance. I think it's just part of their role. Their role is to police the sort of most leftward bound of any possibility in any imagination that we could have in the political system. Just like a little relief, like a little safety valve, like they just yeah,
some coke
exactly. Sprinkle some coke. That's exactly
like,
what it is. Yeah. That's their exact role.
When the crooked cops come and mess you up,
sprinkle some crack on them. And what's wild, like, obviously I agree with all of that, and of course, like, most of them are 100% equally complicit in all of this across the board, not even just on the corporate stuff, even on the stinginess stuff. But like, it is crazy, because I've been trying to, like, even on my show and in social media, do a little bit more, like, not exactly like balls and strike stuff, but a little bit more like, obviously I have my politics, but let me just like look at this like a coach looking at a team with the Democrats. And it is like, the fact that they are not even like, we're gonna basically do bullshit, but we're still like actually a functioning political party, is dangerous in and of itself. Like, there's the bigger picture, like, their politics are trash and they suck. And then there's
they don't get the sting of when they fuck up that you think that they deserve.
I'm not
never
even
actually
talking
get to
about.
fall on
No,
their face. You're saying
I'm not even talking about. No, I'm saying like it is. I'm saying like the fucking forebearers of these people, like Bill Clinton, who is garbage, would never, ever lose this situation. I'm talking like I'm talking like set aside everything about what we know needs to happen. Let's just be like political geeks on one of those fucking, like CNN podcasts.
Yeah.
They are fucking bad at this shit, dude. And that is, and it's a problem on every level. It's a problem because of corruption across the board. It's a problem because of ideology and capitalism. But even in their own terms, it's like the same people who just spent the last 3 years be like, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump. Okay, let's run this senile man against him. Yeah. Like, they can't do this shit.
Bill Clinton used to drive Republicans crazy, and they hate him for it because he would always exploit the political moment for his own benefit. Even if he passed everything they wanted, which is what he did, he basically passed Republican legislation over and over and over again throughout his presidency. The only difference is that he used it for his own political gain, and it drove Republicans insane. So, even in their own little weird ideological world that they exist, the Democrats now can't even do that. They can't even seize this pandemic, which is just like, for this president, it should be like hung around his neck like a noose, and they can't even do that. They can't even like seize the moment for their own political benefit.
Who would be the one to do it? Like the leadership, especially in the Senate. Again, the drop off from Harry Reid to Chuck Schumer, dude. It's oh my goodness, dude. Like, you can't even describe the drop off in leadership. Like, Harry Reid, and we talk about Harry Reid a lot on this show. And it's not because politically his ideology lines up perfectly with ours, but it's that he was extremely competent.
He was a gangster,
and he exactly.
He was
knew
a
what to
boss.
do. He knew what to do. He knew exactly where everybody's vulnerabilities were. He knew exactly where he was strong at, and he went out and he could execute some shit. Harry Reid would have went for this. Ever. He was so ruthless. Chuck Schumer's just a freaking ninny.
Pelosi's worse. Pelosi's worse than him.
Is she worse? I don't know.
Worse. Worse. In the process of this negotiation,
worse. She's a joke.
Schumer has, I mean, first, and again, we keep having to say, like, and Harry Reid would have passed tons of awful stuff, but you're 100% right. Harry Reid would not. It just simply, again, that's like the point. Is it like literally couldn't be this bad if you were just thinking of like a political win?
They don't, and maybe I struggle. I struggle because I'm like, maybe these guys don't even contemplate the concept of a political win, right? Like they feel like, we lost our impeachment thing. We lost our this. We lost our that. Let's not even play politics because we like these freaking corporations anyway, and these are the people that are going to be writing us checks when we leave this freaking office anyway. So let's curry favor and do all of that. It's sad and pathetic, man. And the only hope is that this bill somehow gets killed, and there'll be a couple of days for people to go on TV and raise concerns. I don't know who these people might be or might not be, and there should be some sort of rallying of like, this is terrible, but it's the Democrats, so it's probably going to get shoved down their throats.
Let me just say real quick too, though, like you said, years down the road, and I think you're right. Like the full scale of because this is a big robbery, like people feeling it, people are going to feel this again in another couple of months because it's gonna run out in another couple of months.
The $1,200 is like, there was no rent freeze. There was no mortgage freeze. There was no student debt relief. Nothing. They did nothing. People are going to lose their job. And the craziest thing, it's so crazy. You guys are so on point because it's so obvious why Trump is coming out and saying, maybe in 7 days we'll start getting back to normal, because he wants to run on his strong economy. Like, he is so dedicated to making his quote unquote economy strong again, so he can run on having the greatest American economy in the history of American Americas, right? He's so dedicated to that. Like, you could have just held these dudes hostage.
Yeah.
Period. That's all he cares about. Like, the economy is like one of those self-esteem markers that he uses. It's one of those things that he's like, look at my economy. Look at the stock market. Oh, I'm so great. Right? And all he sees is this shit tanking every single day. It's like his response is, it's so obvious what's happening. And instead of like putting these guys over a barrel, they did the opposite and rolled over. And Mike, you mentioned something about a diversity board.
No, that was Nando.
I don't know if it made it into the final version, but that was one of their negotiating sticking points that the Democrats try to stick in, is that one of the stipulations for getting a giant bailout was that you had to diversify your corporate board.
By the way, the funny thing about that,
the
man,
world can be run by General Dynamics, Amazon, and Purdue Chicken, but I expect people who identify as gender fluid on that board.
Yeah.
You know what the saddest part is about that too?
That's
and
like
I can say this as a black dude. I can imagine several fancy Negroes sitting in their crib like,
oh yeah,
I'm gonna be that dude.
I'm gonna be the guy to administer.
Of course.
Yeah.
I swear to freaking God, dude.
That's the American myth right there for everybody.
That's it.
I'm trying to imagine if this situation were reversed and the exact same thing happened. Coronavirus was happening and there was some Democrat as president and the Democrats controlled the Senate and the Republicans controlled the House and were the minority in the Senate. Like, what they would ask for in exchange for like some emergency relief bill, and it'd be like, abolish the IRS, like eliminate the EPA.
No.
Start to discuss
Keep the IRS, but only people who make under 40 grand a year pay taxes.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. And then we'll
Yeah.
discuss like the possibilities after that. Opening
Billionaires can kill people at will.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like sex education is banned, and if you tell a kid what a condom is in a health class, you can go to jail for 30 years.
Yeah, you're on the sex predator list for the rest of your life.
Before we move on, because I want to talk about Biden and him coming out of his hole finally this week. I wanted you guys to sort of describe a scenario, the slush fund scenario. Like, what's the scenario that they're pitching to people about how this Mnuchin slush fund is going to work? And again, if you're listening to the show, you already have a concept of the criminality of Steve Mnuchin and why this is just like a horrible idea.
Thank you,
right?
Kamala.
Yeah, thank you, Kamala. But just explain to people how the slush fund would work.
Basically, it's a $500 billion piggy bank that Mnuchin can just hand out to any corporation he wants.
But it has oversight.
It has oversight from Democrats, but there is no actual teeth behind it. There is no mechanism with which they could sort of stop, whatever favorite company Mnuchin has or whatever company basically like
so
bribes.
Let's just say his daddy's golf buddy says,
"Yeah,
hey, you think you can give me 300 mil?" Yeah. Jesus, 500.
Look at his wife is some. His wife is some trash actress. Okay, you're an Emirati sovereign wealth fund. What do you want to buy a rural hospital chain? Could you put my wife in a remake of Basic Instinct 2? Yes, my friend. That's literally what your money. Like, that's how your money is going to be spent. And I mean, it's just like it's.
Is that Ivy?
It's my
We're
girlfriend.
done. Oh, how you doing? Good job.
How you doing, wifey? Oh, she can't hear me. The headphones. Okay,
I liked. By the way, let me just tell her without elaborating that I liked her feedback on my performance at the live show a lot. I thought it was very perceptive.
He appreciates your feedback after the live show that you sent me via text.
It was on point.
All right, well, yeah, and so if you're listening to this,
wait. Can I just say one other thing real quick? And this is in Nando's wheelhouse because I saw him tweet this. But like the only okay thing we have going right now is this Dr. Fauci guy. So can fucking liberals stop trying to get him fired by calling hey, you're doing an amazing job. Don't you think Donald Trump's a fucking idiot? Like,
Yeah.
how
Like,
the only thing you should ask him is, how do you have time to manage the coronavirus in between talking about how great Trump is? Can we keep him at his job? Can we at least achieve that, you fucking idiots? Please.
yeah, they're turning him into a lib hero, which is going to ensure that Trump is going to fire him and replace him with like Dr. Oz. You know,
Literally, like why don't we start getting like what I want to know? I've been asking this for a day now. Is like I want to ask Trump, why does Bill Barr look at him so funny at press conferences? It's disrespectful.
Yeah.
Like, Dr. Fauci's got nothing but respect for you, dude. And I love it. But I mean, honestly, even that, like, it sounds petty, but that is so wild that like these like mush-brained liberal resistance morons are so dumb that they, first of all, they can't distinguish anything, because this is actually the one time where it's like, no, this is a good federal bureaucrat. To the extent that anything as good is happening on a federal level, it is due to him, right? And they can't just sit back and be like, huh, maybe we shouldn't blow the situation up. They're just like, we love Dr. Fauci. Donald Trump's a fucking idiot, right? Isn't it horrible when he doesn't talk about science?
Or like, Dr. Fauci is my president now. And it's like, you know, it's like, shut up! Shut up!
He's actually doing something.
Man.
Normally, these people are like, you know, normally their heroes are like former war criminals who are like, yeah, Donald Trump shouldn't be mean to kids in wheelchairs. Okay, but this guy is doing something now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, look, man, nobody said liberals were perfect, but they're who we got. So they're who we got, Mike. They're who we got.
It's not going to work, though. I mean, I'm with you, but we got to upgrade.
Yeah. Unless we're gonna convince Uncle Billy on his John Deere in Oklahoma to start rocking with us, man.
Honestly, I think that there is a silent majority of people who could get on a good agenda if we did it right. I actually believe that. I'm not talking about the Trump base. I'm not talking about the Trump base, but I'm also not talking about fucking like crazy affluent liberals. They're just as crazy, honestly.
No, yeah, I'm good on the liberal professional class, man. These past few years have proven themselves to be some of the most annoying people on planet Earth, dude.
Planet, yes.
Okay, so let's just get to Joe Biden.
Oh yes. Please.
Come on, man.
Come on,
I still have fun.
Hey, Waz, you know that I was the first guy that said that there should be black podcasters. Come on.
Listen, Jack, when I was listening to podcasts back in the day, I think it was 1983, 1984, there was podcasting, and I said, like, hey, man, we got to get a black guy in here because that's not right, man. And, you know, like, they got things to say, too. He's black, you know, like
someone from Haiti. Those guys love to talk. They're always talking all that stuff and strut. They don't. In fact, the thing about them is they don't shut their damn mouths. So why don't they get the podcast?
You know what I'm just now realizing is that as you guys are doing a Joe Biden impersonation, I'm having a revelation that he's doing a cheap Bill Clinton impersonation.
Yeah.
Like he's Rust Belt Bill Clinton. That's what he's trying to do. That's what he's trying to affect on the stump and in his public appearances. Like
it's weird because he's around way before Bill Clinton. But I think you're right. I mean, he like literally had like on the national stage like but I think you're right.
He's trying to be cool, the aviators and all of that shit.
But you guys know he announced today that he's launching his own podcast.
Joe Biden is no.
Yes.
Oh God,
he is. It came out in a fundraising
this might be the dawning of a new day in the woke bros history. Because all right, I'm gonna force myself to hate. Listen.
Yeah, we got to do like a live
all content. All content I'm a part of now for months. TMBS, Woke Bros, whatever. Is just going to be a giant Biden listening party.
Okay, this is At first, I'm like, why? But now I'm like, okay, this is going to be a disaster.
Yeah, I'll text you guys the thing.
Anyway, he peeked his head out of the hole that he was hiding in. By the way,
why we got more colored guys in the podcast? That's why I said, hey, Waz, you like basketball? You're from, over there, the place. Come on and talk the jive stuff. But anyway, I didn't say that. What I said, is there soup?
Talk the jive stuff. And Joe Biden still uses the word jive.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Just let me get out there. I can talk the jive. I'll lock the Negroes up. They love it because in Wilmington, I was the guy who sang the spirituals.
Oh goodness. So who did y'all gotta remind me, who did Joe Biden talk to this week when he finally came out?
He went all over the place. He went on Nicole Wallace's show. He went on Jake Tapper. He went on The View. He looked half dead on
I think
all
it's
of
Tapper that I'm thinking about with the audio where he's just like
Tapper's when he started coughing like crazy.
Yes. That's what I'm thinking about. He started coughing and act like he didn't understand the question, which made me think like, is he trying to say I have corona? Is he trying to say I can't answer this because I have coronavirus now? I don't know. It's March, guys. It's March. The election is in November.
Yeah, it's going to be
long way to go.
Can I just say though, like, here's the thing. I think because I looked. Somebody was pointing out on Twitter, like, how many of you actually watched the whole interview of any of these? Because we're all just watching snippets.
I'm not watching I'm not watching any Biden interview.
I watched like more of the one. But here's the thing. Honestly, okay, Joe Biden, this is not a defense of Joe Biden in any way. I'm just got to go back to I was the guy who said he would do well. So I'm sitting and I'm watching him and I'm like, okay, there are obvious things going on with his mental ability that the press is going to cover for him on. No doubt. That's just a thing he's going to get away with for a while. But there's other times I think where we are forgetting that I don't know if every stumble and every weird anecdote, I don't know if that registers in the same way to older voters. Honestly, I don't think it does either, Mike. I'm not sure it's all such a disaster.
Well, but I don't know that he's going to create the opposite moments, the winning moments. That's what I'm worried about.
But older voters vote Republican.
Right.
So if he's not going to get older voters because they're going to vote Republican, he's not getting younger voters. He just has no base in a general election.
Right.
That's the reality of it. Yeah, sure. Older voters don't find him offensive and they're fine, but they're going to vote Republican. Trump is going to win with voters over 65, which is Biden's base. And so it's
that's
just
my problem with Biden's being senile. It's like he's not going to create the winning moments. He's not going to create the moments where he's able to, Trump is going to be able to parry him so easily. And
I'm sorry,
you guys mentioned the sexual assault stuff. Remember what he did to Hillary? He's like, but what about Bill? You know what I'm saying?
And he was and you know what? He had a point.
But what about Bill?
Yeah, and what about Bill? That's the thing.
He's going to be able to parry all of this shit, all the corporatist stuff. He's going to be like, but what about Hunter? It's
and you'll have a point.
You know what I'm saying? It's just he's not going to be able to win the day. That's what I'm afraid of. The fuck ups, the gaffes, that matters to people like us, because it's just you really can't just string together 4 sentences that are decent in a row. That's problematic for me. But I just are you going to be able to? Because for instance, in 2012, what he did to Paul Ryan was just nasty and unfair. He just demolished Paul Ryan and made him look like an amateur, straight up and down.
Different man.
Different guy. He's not going to deliver those moments.
Different times. Like 2012 was very different than 2020 politics in general. But the thing about the thing that a lot of Democrats are banking on is like, yes, Joe Biden is half dead and we're propping him up and all that stuff, but the economy is going to suffer because of this coronavirus. And the conventional wisdom says that when the economy goes down, the incumbent suffers, and it's good for the challenger. Sure, that's usually true, but it's also true that in a national emergency, the incumbent gets a huge advantage. Like a war or some big catastrophe, like then people rally behind whoever's there. You're starting to see that with people's response to Trump's response to this coronavirus thing, which has been awful, but like he's got an over 50% approval rating on it.
Because he's there. I mean, Biden isn't even there.
Americans are hardwired for authoritarianism after like decades of propaganda and all that stuff. So like, it's like, yeah, you rally behind the president when something bad happens. Like, that's why, like, the old cliche is like, you start a war to bump your approval rating up, because like, in a moment of war, people are like, oh, I like the guy, I'm going to support him. He's my guy. And I think that's like, people are banking that just because the economy is going to suffer, that the Democrats will win out. But, this is the economy is suffering, but it's also kind of a different type of crisis. It's like a weird thing when people are afraid and scared. And those moments actually usually help the incumbent. So there is no like rule book here that shows that the Democrats have a slam dunk here.
I got to tell you, I really, really, because as much as I have just no respect and no confidence in the Democratic Party in every way, and the other, like, we're going to see people, we'll talk about it some other time, but like the latest allegation the allegation that came out yesterday against Joe Biden is very different. Like it is really, and we're going to see people who used like this rhetoric of believe women to trust Elizabeth Warren trying to smear and lie about Bernie Sanders. And now they're going to try to put this story that's actually like really serious. Unlike, like it's serious, this one. They're going to try to put it on ice. And so, but honestly,
Trump won't.
Trump won't. And I got to tell you, I think I think the Democrats are going to try to bench Biden and replace him with Cuomo. I really do. I don't discount that possibility at all. I really do.
Oh man!
And then again, it's perfect because Cuomo's a fucking piece of shit. Like Cuomo, if you're angry about,
shit, but he's kind of like, and then he knows how to seize this moment.
And that's the part that drives me crazy is like,
but they could have ran a Cuomo if they wanted to.
But Cuomo wasn't ready.
He tried, but he's
unpopular. But now all of a sudden he's on TV. Like, and again, for these people, that literally it's just TV to them. They just want somebody to be able to like tell Trump he's a jerk, and Cuomo can do that.
Dude, there's how many pieces and tweets have come out of like, oh my God, is Cuomo hot now? Like, is Cuomo turning me on? Is he my boyfriend now? I wish he was my husband. And it's like, what are you people? Like, what kind of, who are you people?
The saddest part in all of this is that his pops was like a straight up great politician and a real actual liberal and progressive. And he freaking spawned one of the biggest corporatist money grubbing Dems that you could possibly believe, right? It's kind of crazy. And like, because, people aren't familiar with Mario Cuomo, but he was a star in the party. Like he had a lot of respect and a lot of juice, but he was kind of too hippie for a lot of those people back then. And it's so crazy to see his son come out and just, just for being the guy that's there, like you guys just mentioned, like he happens to be New York's governor right now. Like materially, he's no different than Pataki. Like there's no real difference between him and Pataki, but like when you contrast it to what's going on TV every single day, he seems like Prince Charming, which is a fucking joke.
And I'm telling you, I just think like he is like, first, look, if Bernie still is in the mix and Bernie's actually leading, like Bernie's doing it, but I just think when I think of the fact that not all of them are content to lose to Trump, I think some of them legit are, but not all of them. Some of them would actually like to win the election. They took care of Bernie, and they're not. I mean, they're stupid and mediocre, but it doesn't take that much to figure out that Joe Biden doesn't have the stamina to do this for 6 months. And then they're looking on TV and they're like, oh my God, Andrew Cuomo.
And Ryan Grimm tweeted out how in his reporting for his book, he saw that in 1988, when it looked like Jesse Jackson was going to be like the Bernie, like Jesse Jackson might storm to the Democratic nomination, that they were prepping Mario Cuomo to replace him at the convention.
That's hilarious.
So it's like time repeats, like history repeats itself.
Man, Mario Cuomo would have been better than Dukakis. I'll tell you that much.
That's the truth.
But you know what? At the same time, though, Mike, like they were still calling Italian people ethnic whites back then. So who even knows? Man?
You know, I saw who's that real crazy that like. There's that guy Bill Mitchell. He's like one of these like old Trump style Republic.
He's the best.
He's the best. Like he would tweet stuff like real, like he would be like on the unintentional, like anti-Semites are stupid. Even if the Jews control the economy, they never stop me from making a buck. You know, like one of those, like, you know what I mean? Like that type of guy.
I mean, he was the famous, the ground game was in our hearts.
Exactly. And he just put out like the most wild, like anti-Italian tweet about Corona. Like it was so bizarre. It was amazing. And
because it's so old school.
It was so because everybody else is doing anti-Asian racism, and he was just like, these Dagos don't know how to watch. And this guy on my Twitter was just like, this Italian guy is like, well, being white was fun while it lasted.
Dude, people like it's like Italians get corona more because they got greasy hair.
Dude,
the virus gets greasy.
People forget because we live in a place, Nando, where Cubans in Miami are white people, right? Like Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio get to be white people. They forget that Italian people weren't always white. They weren't always considered to be white people. This is a relatively new thing, and this dude is old school. He remembers when they were grease monkeys. Oh man, I love talking to you guys, even in the middle of a global pandemic, even in the middle of the only party that we can fucking identify with screwing people over and bending over backwards just to get reamed up the ass by the corporate class of this country. I just love talking to you guys. That's our show for today. Of course, make sure you become a patron of both TMBS and Count the Dings, man. And that goes without, like, we don't need the caveat. If you're struggling with money and rent and groceries and, you know, nobody can watch your kids and all that, obviously nobody expects you to give us stuff.
Obviously, you got to make hard decisions. You got to patron up. And
reach out to us, man. If you want to become a patron and you want to do it at a reduced rate, and just reach out to us because these are things that we're doing both at Count the Dings and at TMBS.
Yes,
so make sure you do that.
I mean, you know, informally, you know, nobody's ever been turned away that needs a deal. And, you know, of course, like that's always been the case. Yeah. And now, of course, even more so, of course.
Yeah. So just keep that in mind. And Mike, man, before we get out of here, talk to us about your book, Mr. Arthur, man.
Yo, it's coming out April 28th. It's available on pre-order. It's called Against the Web, the Cosmopolitan Answer to the New Right. And it's like, it's a book about a bunch of assholes on the internet that need to be criticized. But the bigger argument, basically, man, it's just about like, what would an actual appealing left look like? One that wasn't a bunch of like, you know, like woke scolds, but also had an understanding of the cultural dynamics of politics. Also recognize that the conversation of race, it's just an American question. It's a global question. So it's a lot to the book, but it's also fun. You know, you'll enjoy it. Get it. It's available on pre-order, obviously on Amazon, but you could also get it at various independent booksellers.
I already pre-ordered mine from that independent bookseller you sent.
Oh yeah, Red Emma's in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Awesome.
Again, man,